let me open the document that we're following. Okay, so we stopped at this place, I guess, because first thing we have to look at it how we can set up the Eclipse and then get it running and then see an example, I guess, right? Did we stop there? Remember. Okay, I guess it is. So I mean, just a recap kind of thing. Last time last class we discussed how you can create a servlet in 3 ways. First one is by implementing the servlet interface and then extending from generic servlet and then from extending from HTTP servlet. So these are the 3 predefined classes. Hey, just a minute. Yeah, so in order to create a servlet, we have 3 ways that we have already discussed. First one is using the servlet interface, which is available in Java X.servlet package, and then we have generic servlet, which is abstract class, which is implementing again the servlet, and the last one is HTTP servlet, which is extending from generic servlet. So the last 2 are classes, and the first one is an interface. So you can create a servlet in this 3 ways, okay, and it's very simple. If you have the proper libraries in place in your class path, and today we'll look at how you create using the 3 techniques, and then we'll have an example also. So and these are available actually in Java X package. Java X package is for servlets packaging, and I mean, you might have seen Java dot some packaging till now. So Java X is for the advanced one to introduce this servlets and all. They have mentioned it as Java X so that it will stand apart from the normal Java documentation or API. Okay, so now implementing the servlet interface. So everybody knows that if you implement an interface, what happens? Basically what happens is, see, for example, if there is an interface named let me type it so that everybody can see and understand. Increase the font. Not this. Okay, there's an interface with name B, okay, and you know all interfaces will have methods with just the declaration part. So it has a method add, okay, and it has another method which is multiply. Okay, so I'm just taking an example so that you'll understand the servlet concept clearly. Okay, so there's an interface like this, and now what happens is I want to implement this class. So what I'll do is I'll take a class, okay, class maths class. This is a class, and I want to implement the above created interface. So what will happen now? If this is typed in Eclipse or anywhere in Notepad++ and you try to compile it, it will give you compilation errors. Why? Because you are implementing the B class, which has 2 methods which are abstract by default. Their implementation should be written in the implementing class. That means in the concrete class wherever it is implementing. Okay, and the declaration should be made like this. So now your compilation error will not be there, and this will execute properly. So, and you can add your code here. Okay, so I'm sure everybody knows this, but just a recap. So and in the same manner, whenever you implement a servlet, basically servlet has 5 predefined methods in it. Predefined methods are nothing but the methods defined in servlet API. So whenever you implement the servlet interface, you have to override. Overriding is a concept. You have to override. You have to provide the implementation for the 5 methods defined in the servlet interface. So the first method, that is what we are following, right? So you have to, and the syntax would be similar to this: public class my servlet, which is implementing the servlet interface. Okay, and so if you see here, using the first approach, there are 5 methods in the servlet interface. The first method is the init method, and the second one is service. This is not like in an order, but these are how they are defined. So forget about the order. Maybe you'll ask me, what will, is this the way the control actually goes, or after init will the service be called or destroy will be called in the ending part? So it's not like that. This is just the list down of all the methods that are there in servlet interface. Okay, abstract methods. Now we have at the same time get servlet config and get servlet info, and then destroy method. So these are the 5 methods, and you need to implement these methods. If you are implement this means write some code to this methods if you are implementing from servlet interface. Okay, and it's a one liner for each and every method. The first method, the init method says, the method itself says at the time of initialization. So this init method will be called by the Tomcat at the time of servlet initialization, and it will be called only once in the time of servlet lifecycle. And then comes the service method, and the service method is nothing but it is the method which will actually process the request whenever a request comes from the browser. Say some example, if you want to connect to a database, or if you want to do some business logic, or you want to add 2 numbers or delete 2 numbers or something like that. Okay, everything will be done in the service method, because it will have 2 predefined objects which are nothing but servlet request and servlet response. And these methods, these parameters are given by Tomcat container for us. For us in the sense, in order to implement your business logic. And the servlet request, this will have the request objects which you are sending from the browser. That means you enter some form, okay, and you click on submit. So whatever form values that you give inside it, how are they reaching your Tomcat server? How are you going to process the input? How are you going to validate them, whether the user has entered correct pin code or not? So it is done with the help of the data being transferred from the browser to the server, and from the server what server will do is, it will pick the request object from the browser, place all the request parameters which the user sends from the request. That means in our case it's a form, and then place them in the servlet request object, and then pass it to the service method. So if there is a username and password, okay, you clicked on submit, what happens? The username and password will be sent to the server. You just say validate it. Now how do you validate it? You should validate it with the DB values, whether the user is already there or not. For example, if you log into Gmail account, you should have an account before you log in, right? So you enter some random account and you try to log in. That is not going to work. Why? Because it is validating against the database. Okay. So in the same manner, to send the data from the browser, the servlet request is the primary object to get the request parameters from the browser. Okay. So it is the only option we have. And then after get servlet config, is a method which will return a servlet config object. We'll see what is servlet config object, but just for now, look at what this method actually does. If you call this get servlet config object, it will return you a servlet config method. It will return you a servlet config object. In the same manner, get servlet info. The servlet info will give you the servlet information, and the last one is destroy. Destroy is a method which will be called by the container, not by the user. Not by the developer, I mean to say. Whenever the request is done, the response is being sent back to the server, sent back to the browser. Then immediately destroy method will not be called. Okay, it is not the method which will be called after the response is rendered to the browser or sent back to the browser. It is a method which will wait for some more time. If there are no requests that are coming from that particular servlet, then the destroy method may be called by the garbage collector, and it is not in our hands. Even if you override it, like as I said, but Aditya, we are overriding it in our class. Will that be called? It will not be called. It will only be called uh, whenever there are no requests that are coming from the browser. Then at some point of time, depending on the server implementation, because you can configure this also at server server configurations, how much time the servlet can have a life. So all these things can be done from the Tomcat admin. And then, so these are the 5 methods, guys. So now what we'd have to do is, we have seen the first approach, how you can create a servlet. Now we'll go uh, and create actually a servlet. Okay, but before that, this is one more point before writing actually the servlet. See, whenever there is a request that is coming from a browser, you process the request and send back some response, right? So the response is sent back using print writer object, which is coming from Java, and this print writer object is responsible for sending out the response to the browser. So you have to define this print writer, which you can get it from the servlet request object. No, sorry, servlet response object from get writer method. Okay, I mean, this is the syntax you have to follow, and why we have to follow, I'll show you in the code. And let's go and create a sample application. So before creating a sample application, there are some tools that you need to have. One is Tomcat server, and the other one is Eclipse, and then Java, of course. So these things are mandatory. And if you remember yesterday, I was explaining about the default folder structure of a web application, which has application name. You can see that from here, which have the application name, the web.inf, and the web.xml file, where your servlet configurations are all configured, and the classes folder, which will have all the classes. When the request comes, it will pick up the servlet from the classes folder, so it is a mandatory one. And then JSP and HTML. So and then images, if there are any images. Okay, so now if you have recollected it, so this folder structure, you have two options. One thing is you go and create everything manually, which is going to take some time, and we may generally tend to enter some spelling mistakes also, not intentionally but accidentally. So this will not let you work properly when you are when you are developing web applications. So what we'll do is we'll use Eclipse. It is the best option. I would suggest everybody to download Eclipse, which is a free software.
It's fine, or you can download a zip file, or to create the same folder structure which we've discussed yesterday, and I've mentioned the folder structure in the document also. So
So this folder structure, is created by Eclipse, as I was mentioning. So you don't need to worry about how to create it manually. And let's see how you can add a server. So I have already added a server. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and delete this server. Okay. Let me stop this. It is already running. Let's go and delete it. Okay. Before that. Okay.
starting. Okay, it's deleted, and now we look at how you can add a server to the Eclipse for, and you have to have this option. The server tab will only come if you download the latest Eclipse. You can download from Helios. After Helios, you have Indigo. After Indigo, you have I don't remember the name, but latest one is Kepler, I guess. Or else you can come and see an Eclipse.org. Okay, Eclipse ID for Java developers is not even 300 MB, it's just 155 MB. You can download either this or this one. Okay, so and the latest one is Luna. Okay, it sounds like the bike we had. Luna. Okay, so coming back to how to add the server. So you should have the server tab when you're using Eclipse, and when you want to add the server to your Eclipse, just follow the clicks that I'm doing. You click on new, click on server, it'll open a wizard. Click on Apache because we are using Apache Tomcat. If you're using IBM, then it's your choice, whatever you use. So I have 7, so I'm selecting 7, and then I'll click on finish. So it is now attached to my Eclipse, and the advantage of this is you don't need to go to the deployment, you don't need to go to the folder where you have installed it, or you have unzipped it. So this is an easy way to, faster way to start and stop the server. Okay, and then it has another advantage where you don't need to deploy it when you change the code. It will automatically pick up the WAR file and place it in web apps, and then it will sync the code effectively. So I like I mean, most of the developers does this, unless you have some problems with Eclipse or some with servers, some configurations. This is the best way. So before starting, we'll just go ahead and create. Okay, so now click on new in this project explorer, and then go to project. No, here dynamic web project. You have this dynamic web project in Eclipse, most of the Eclipse versions. So click on the dynamic web project. This means that you're creating a web application. So you can see a globe. You can see a globe here, right? Create standalone dynamics, and after this. So let's see. Let me remove this sample and create it with that name. Picking up the names for projects is okay. Sample. I just put sample here. It is already existing. Sample 1. Okay. So it is asking you to select the runtime configuration. We have only one target runtime, which is Apache Tomcat 7, and then we just go click next. So this is the default source folder where your classes will be generated, and then click on next. So it is asking what is the context root. Context root is nothing but your application name through which you will access the application from URL. It is asking whether to create the deployment descriptor, which is web.xml file. I'm going to check yes for that because it has so many tags and I don't want to type all that. Okay, so it is creating all the folders, structures, web.xml file, and all other stuff for us. So let's go and open this. Okay, so you see this deployment descriptor, Java's resources, JavaScript resources, build, and web content. So all these things are predefinedly, these are created by Eclipse itself, and what we need to worry about or know about is now your sample 1 and the folder structure as webinf and web.xml file. Okay, so web.xml file does not have anything. It is just it just have the welcome file. remove the welcome file list as of for now. Okay, so this is a basic skeleton of web.xml file, and now we are going to create the class. Okay, so I will name it as my servlet, or first servlet. It doesn't have a main method as the normal Java classes have, since it's a dynamic web project. You know, you have to avoid that. Okay, whenever I write implement servlet, it is not able to understand what is servlet because we have to import it obviously. So I've imported it, and now there is another problem coming up in Eclipse. When you mouse around it, it is saying the type first servlet must implement the inherited abstract methods which are defined in servlet interface. So as we have discussed, we have to implement all the methods, and Eclipse is giving me the option to select add unimplemented methods, and we just click on that. So it will automatically create override all the methods defined in the servlet. Okay, so this is done by Eclipse, and it is a cool feature. So if you see, we have the destroy method, get servlet config, servlet info, init method, and then service. Where is it? Yeah. Okay, we have service also, and service is the place where I have just mentioned that the response actually, the request actually lands on this method, and the Tomcat will actually handle how you can map that request to the service method. And if you see, you have some predefined objects which are servlet request and servlet response. So we'll just name them something meaningful. This is not. This is response. This is request. Okay, so now you have the two request and response object which are being handled by the browser. The Tomcat container, and so that's it. Now we have successfully created our servlet. Now the next one is how you can map it to a URL pattern. Okay, so let me copy that tags and all, because I guess I may type some errors. So let's be sure that we are not typing in errors. So our servlet here has the name as first servlet, and we're gonna name it as home, the shortcut name, and the same should be here also, and some URL pattern. Okay, so if this URL pattern is submitted, what happens is the browser hits this URL pattern with the URL as like this. Since it is running in local, it is like this, and the port number is this, and sample 1 is my application context, and home is the URL pattern. Okay, so whenever you click something like this in the URL pattern, what will happen is it will go and go to the Tomcat server, and the Tomcat will understand that okay, the user is requesting me the sample 1 application and the URL pattern with /home. So what it will come blindly do is it will go to the sample 1 folder structure which is deployed on this Tomcat, and then it will pick up the /home by coming to the web.xml file to here, and it will pick up the short name for that URL pattern, and it will match with the servlet class, whatever servlet class is mapping. So here it is mapped with, because this is an example, we have only one servlet here, but in a project we'll have n number of servlets depending on the URLs or depending on the project size. So it will go and check for with each and every servlet class map, servlet class tag, and then once it matches, what happens is it's gonna call the first servlet service method. It will create the request object by transferring all the request input into this servlet request object, and then your coding actually starts from service method. Okay, so this is how this request and response actually works. So once this is done, the control actually goes back to the browser by sending the response back. Okay, so let's see what you can do here. I'm just doing a sysout so that we can see in service method, and we'll do the same thing for init also. Destroy will do. Okay, so this is just sys out so that we'll see what is happening with this. And now we'll write a piece of code here, which is the print writer code. Class, it's print writer. Okay. Okay, so this line will actually help you send the response back to the browser. And how it does is, so this getWriter method is a object which is defined in servlet response class, and then it will return you a print writer object. So this print writer object has some methods which can take the response back to the browser. Otherwise, there's no way you can take the response back to the browser. So that's why we are doing like this. Now this method has overloaded functions, overloaded methods, I can say. Okay, so now what we have done is we have taken a print writer reference object and then calling the write method. Write method is nothing but is a method which will you can say it will transfer the string object, whatever you defined inside it, into the response object. Okay, into this object. I mean, once the response is done, once the response is ready, this object will be transferred to the Tomcat. It will be given back to the Tomcat, and then Tomcat has the responsibility to send it back to the browser. So that is how the actual flow works from browser to the servlet. And I mean, I should not say servlet to server, and then from server back to the browser. So this is how it actually works. So let's go and run this on the server. So you right click on the project. If there are many files, you can just say clean the project. It will clean the project. If there are any .class files, it will remove all the .class files so that it will create a new .class file, so that you can be sure that your code has been compiled successfully. And then you have this run as option when you have this server attached to the Eclipse. Okay, so now let's go and click on run on server now. So this is not a Java application, this is a web application, so that's why you don't see that. This is not a Java applet. Okay, so now you click on run on server. It has to select the server and then run. Deploy it in the web apps folder and then run it. Okay, it's throwing an error because there is no URL pattern with this. We'll open it, the same thing. Okay, so what is the URL pattern we have here? Let's go and check it again. It's home. Okay. Okay, now when I click on home, what is actually happening is it will pick up this URL pattern. So till here, since it's the application context and the local server name that has been given here, it will just pick the sample one application defaultly, and then from there it will go and see what is the URL pattern and what is the servlet defined for this URL pattern in web.xml file, and then it will call that servlet, and it will process the request and send the response using the print writer object uh, to the Tomcat, and then the response is sent back from the browser from the Tomcat container to the browser, and we'll display whatever is there in the print writer object. Okay, so now I'm gonna click OK, not OK, so enter, and now we got hello. This is my first servlet message. How did we get it? I've just explained you. I mean the flow of how it happens. If you have any questions, you can ask me, because we will be moving into the next approach of using generic servlet abstract class. No questions? Great. Okay, so the next approach would be generic servlet. This is an abstract class. This is not an interface. So this has the methods, the same methods which are defined in servlet interface, because this internally is implementing the servlet interface. If you see the diagram, that is what is depicted here. Generic servlet is implementing the servlet interface, and again servlet is extending from the generic servlet. So this is how the chain actually works, because servlet is the parent of all servlets. Okay, so now generic servlet, since it's implementing the interface, what it has to do is, if you know the course of overloading implements concept, the inheritance, then you may immediately think that the 5 methods which are defined inside the servlet interface must be defined and declared, and must be declared and defined, and some implementation should be there in the generic servlet class. So that is true. It has all the methods overridden by them, and the other reason people moving into generic servlet is the advantage of generic servlet. What is the advantage? For example, if you are using a servlet interface for creating servlets, even if it is necessary or not necessary, even if it's necessary to create to override the service method, that is fine. But all of the methods like get servlet info, get servlet config, the init method and destroy method. So for that reason, it's a little effort that I have to do, by coding. If I implement the servlet interface, because I have to write some extra code which I'm not going to use anyway, because this will be called after the now request, and init also it will be called only once, and why can when the server can handle that, why do I need it to enter in my class at class level? So that is the reason they started implementing the generic servlet. So the generic servlet has 5 methods again. Okay, it has 2 methods. One is let me open the API. these are all the interfaces. If you see, if you click on servlet, you can see define methods that all servlet must implement. So it is destroy, get servlet, config, info, init, and service. So init is it's saying it is called at the time of server startup or load on startup is called, and then we have generic servlet. See here, it is all implemented interfaces. It is implementing servlet interface, and then what are the methods that it has? Uh, it has void destroy, get init parameter, servlet config, servlet context, get servlet info, init method, another init, log, wait, service, and the service has servlet request and servlet response. Uh, okay, so if you look at the API, since this is implementing from the servlet interface, it is actually implementing destroy method, get servlet config, get servlet info, init method, and service method. So this is how the implementation is done if you implement the interface. So in order to avoid this unnecessary code, what they have come up is they have come up with a generic servlet which is implementing the servlet, and then they have some predefined methods again in them. So what you have to do if you are extending from an abstract class, so the abstract class, whatever abstract methods are there inside that abstract class, you have to implement them. And the other rule is, and whatever method that you can override, whatever method you want to override, you can override them. Okay, so and okay, so this has the service method which is abstract. If you see in this generic servlet, this is an abstract method which we can consider that it doesn't have any implementation. So that's why we have to implement or override the service method whenever you extend from the generic servlet abstract class. Okay, so now coming to the overriding function, so this has the servlet request and response again, which are defaultly given by the server, and then they're same as your servlet interface when you're calling servlet interface service method. And then inside it, what is happening is along with that we have okay, this is not one second. This is just generic servlet syntax. You need to override only the service method because it is defined as abstract. And as I've mentioned, there is no need for us to write all this unnecessary code in your servlet, because this is I'm not going to use it any time. So why should I write it at all? Okay, so coming answering that question, you can use the generic servlet, and for generic servlet, the only default service method is abstract, and since the request should be processed if you're writing servlet, you have to override the service method if you are implementing the generic servlet. So we're gonna create another class with not here within the source. Okay, so a class which is extending okay, click on finish. Now come here and click extends. So okay, anyways, you have to import it, of course, the Java Extract Servlet package, and then it will say that you have to add the unimplemented methods. So only unimplemented method is service method, because it is you should write at least one method to to process the request. So that is why they have made this as abstract. And here what you can do is again change the variable names. It will be for readability. It will be very nice. Okay. So now what we'll do? We'll type a print. Okay, we'll take the print writer object. Okay, so now without sorry type. Okay, now whenever you want to call this class, what you have to do, you have to mention that in web.xml file with a URL pattern. Otherwise, it will not be called anytime, right? So you have to do that. Now copy the same thing, paste it, change the name of the servlet, and of course the URL also. I'm very bad at naming, just wait. Oh, okay, so now what we have? We have a generic servlet which is extending. We have a servlet which is extending this generic servlet, which is our second approach. And since it's an abstract class and all the abstract methods should be implemented, and there is only one method in generic servlet, we have to override that. Okay, and coming back to the web.xml file, I need to configure this to a URL. So for that reason, I have given the second as URL, and this will be called when I click on second. So do I need to restart? And let's see if doesn't call the. Okay, you have to deploy it, I guess, or restart it. It will automatically do that. Okay, yeah, it is started. This is a very small text. Okay, so this is how the server is actually rendering the request. Okay, so now the last approach that we have is HTTP servlet. Uh, you know, when we have a servlet, why are we using generic servlet? There are some advantages. In the same way, when we have generic servlet, why are we using HTTP servlet? Okay, HTTP servlet is the last approach for creating the servlet, and it is an abstract class again. So you have to use this syntax. Whatever servlet name you give, um, you have to extend the HTTP servlet, and then that is the third approach, and we'll be done with creating a servlet. Okay, we'll look at the other concepts, but creation of servlets is very important. Okay, so let's go. Uh, let's go and straightforwardly create the. Uh, so now, what is the other advantage?
HTTP method, and so that is the reason HTTP benefits which are the benefits about data retrieval or they use this data inputs, they not go to other HTTP methods, and since the HTTP method is very specific to the protocol is nothing but the I've explained in the first class what is the medium that you want to communicate. So the medium is HTTP protocol and the method is get or post in our case. So generic servlet you can't mention whether it is get or post, but whereas coming to HTTP servlet you can mention what is the method that you want to override or use in this functionality or this requirement. Okay, and how you can achieve it is in the sense you can either override get method, uh, which I'm going to copy paste it from here. Okay, uh, one second. Okay, see this is a HTTP servlet abstract class, and if you see we have do delete, do get, do head, do options, do post, do put, and do trace. So these are the 7 methods which are available, to call onto the server. But we mostly use, as I told, we just use do post and do get. Okay, so and but there are other methods also which are service methods, service and the service. Okay, the inputs are different. If you see, one input is taking servlet request and the other one is taking the HTTP servlet request. Okay, so these two things are different. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna import
Okay. Now, for example, if the user is sending a request from the browser with the HTTP method as get, so what will happen at that point of time? So at that point of time, the control will actually come to the Tomcat server and it will pick up the URL pattern, goes to the servlet, associated servlet, and then execute the method. So in case of generic servlet and servlet, we have seen that it will execute the service method. But what happens in HTTP servlet if there is no service method here? The service method is not there because HTTP protocol or HTTP servlet is very specific to the HTTP method you call the browser upon, and this is in your control. For your information, whenever you say to UI guy use this URL, you tell him that you have to use only this method also to the UI developer. So that is your responsibility to take care, because if you say I have implemented get method and please send me post, if you say that, he'll send you post till you'll be debugging it for days to find out what is happening. Okay, the small mistakes actually count a lot. So just make sure that you mention the UI developer that you are using the do get, and the the UI developer should also send a get method from the browser. So in that way, we can have a common communication and a HTTP protocol, which is do get in our case. So do get will be called. It is like a service method. The do get will be called automatically, and the request and response objects are coming from the Tomcat container, and then this is done. This is like again the service method, whichever we have seen in generic servlet or servlet interface. Okay, so we'll write this out. Let me put this print writer from Java. Sorry for the typos, guys. Yeah, so now I have written a HTTP servlet. This is the name. So let's go and configure this in .xml file. Okay, so let's change this. Okay. Now we have this, and we have the servlet, and we have to change the name of the servlet, otherwise it will give an error. Okay, HTTP servlet is done. Now let's restart the server. successfully started. The URL pattern is contact us. What happened? Homepage, servlet.
ఇంకా హైదరాబాద్ ఉందా?
పెట్టిండ్రు అన్నారు, ఇప్పుడు తీసేసిండంట మళ్ళీ. ఢిల్లీలో ఇన్సిడెంట్ అయింది కదా.
అన్అవుటర్తో తెలిసిన యూబర్ఎక్స్ 175 to 223.
Okay, it is synchronized. Let's go and see now.
నలుగురు షేర్ వేసుకొని మంచిగా క్యాబ్ ఆఫీస్ దగ్గర పెట్టినంటే చాలా
అంతే, నలుగురు షేర్ చేసుకొని పోవాలి. విండోస్ వచ్చి అసలు నలుగురు షేర్ చేసుకోవడం అంటే.
క్యాబ్ వాళ్ళు ఎక్కువ పెడతారు కదా ఆల్మోస్ట్ అక్కడ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ కంపెనీస్ వాళ్ళు.
Okay, somehow it is not actually picking up this HTTP servlet page. So, but this is how you actually, write HTTP servlet, using HTTP servlet third option. So I look at that code piece of code why it is not working and send over the examples so that you can start working on the servlets. I'll send this sample one project so that you can start over with this, or you can just import this with the help of new, or here you have import function. You can say import general existing project into workspace and then select the path where you place the source that I will send you. Okay, so at that point of time this should actually work. So in one example you have this servlet, generic servlet, and then HTTP servlet also. So any questions on how to create the servlet, please ask me, we can discuss. No questions?
No questions on servlet, Aditya. Actually, the thing is, I have Eclipse Luna, but still I'm in my console. There, it's not showing, like server option is not showing. What can I do?
Okay, do one thing. Go to the bottom left-hand pane where my cursor is placed now. Can you go there? Did you see any plus icon there like this?
Just a second.
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay, fine. Go to window and click on preferences.
Can you please show window? Which one?
Window.
Okay.
Go to show perspective. Show view.
Just a second. Yeah, window, show view. Okay.
You have server there.
Console declaration. Oh no, I don't have.
Click on other.
Yeah.
can you see server folder like you see on the screen now?
Yeah, I have server.
Click on it.
Okay.
Select
Yeah.
OK. And then
Yeah, now it's showing.
it's showing. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Thank you.
No problem. So I mean, other, I mean, anybody has any questions other than that? Like in the servlet, how to create it and any other thing. Fine. So we'll call it a day for now. Tomorrow we're going to discuss about other topics that are in the content, and I'll send over the examples and the video so that you can have a reference when you get it out. And please try them at your home, because these things, once you listen to them and you feel very comfortable, you think that it is very easy, but you only get them when you practice. Okay. Otherwise, the reason I'm telling you is, if you forget, it's fine, but tomorrow you come without practicing. I'll just go and do the do get by extending HTTP servlet. You will again be, any confusion. What is this do post and do get? So if you practice, you'll be very clear what I'm doing. So these basic steps, you have to get them fast so that we can move faster. And it's it's good for you also. So that's the reason I'm actually requesting everybody to practice it if you have a chance. Okay, so Shiva, we are done, Shiva. So we can call it a day. Are you there, Shiva?
I guess Shiva is not there.
Okay, fine. No problem. So you are okay with the classes, right? I mean, the pace and all. You're able to understand everybody out there. I can't see you, so you have to speak out. Like, at least say yes.
Yeah, for me it's okay. Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll take an S from every student. So thanks a lot, guys, and have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.